I think it's important to tell you that you are being lied to. Donald Trump is lying to you, the American people. And this shouldn't be nearly as controversial as it is among several Trump supporters. We knew this was the case. We knew that the Pulitzer Prize winning PolitiFact said that Trump had told so many lies that his lie of the year was the lie of the year was Donald Trump. Not even just one of his lies, but just Donald Trump. We know that he lies about things, and he has his press secretary, as late as last week when he became president, lie about things that are easily verifiable. Like how many people rode the Metro, when the Metro, the day before the press conference, clearly quoted very different numbers. Like saying that what is in pictures isn't true, when if you compare the picture of the inauguration of Donald Trump in 2016 to the inauguration of Obama in 2009, there's a very clear, very stark difference. And Trump and his team are denying what is clearly true there. He lies so consistently and so stunningly that to say that he's a con man is almost unnecessary, because I think that it's very obvious. And he seems to know that several of his supporters are not so much concerned about the truth as they are about power, as they are about controlling the narrative. You know, one thing I heard recently is that Nazi Germany, when they said false things about the Jews, liberals would debunk it, say that it wasn't true, but that wasn't the point. What they were trying to do was talk about their intentions. So if it was true that World War I was the Jews' fault, then we should get rid of the Jews, even if it wasn't their fault. If it was true that Donald Trump won by a landslide, then he is going to act while he is president of the United States as if he has a mandate, even though that's not true. I've also heard, if it was true that 3 million people who illegally voted, Donald Trump is going to rationalize. Donald Trump would restrict voting rights. It's not true, but he's going to act as if it is true in order to justify his restriction of voting rights. What I am afraid of at this point is that the consistent lies that Donald Trump is telling is meant not so much as a ha-ha moment, like, oh, he's lying, so now we pointed him out. They are meant to fundamentally transform this country from a republic with some democratic elements to one in which Donald Trump has more control over this country than we have ever seen any president have up to date. And he uses it. Because if Donald Trump can roll back voting rights, if he can make it so that there are more disenfranchised voters, and he can control demonstrations. You know, we recently heard about 6 journalists who are facing felony charges and up to 10 years in prison for covering protests, along with 200 other protesters who weren't arrested based just on them being violent, but rather were arrested because they were in the vicinity of some violence that was going on. And the rumor is that several people who were actually causing the violence got away. Which means that if I go to a protest and there are some outside agitators that come in, as often do, and try to start trouble, I could be arrested. And not only that, I could be facing felony charges and up to 10 years in prison because I protested. So if you're not able to demonstrate against your president, if your communications, as Donald Trump is trying to do, are shut down through, the restrictions of libel laws and the shutting down of government organizations that would say things counter to your narrative. And if Donald Trump is using the power of his office as much as he can to instill lies in this country and operate based on those lies, then eventually what will happen is that we won't be able to control our country. He is going to basically kick us out and our truth out and our facts out from this country and be able to rationalize ruling this country any way he likes. And so in reaction to this, what we have to do is resist and fight back and do it strategically. And there's a lot going on, and it's very hard to keep track of it all. But one thing that we need to do is treat people who follow Trump, and I hate to say this, but we need to treat people who follow Trump in some cases almost as if they're in a cult. In some cases, as if it's about power and Trump's lies more than it is about the truth, because a lot of people supporting Trump have been conned by him. They support his lies. And others, don't really care, and for them it's all about power. For the people who it's all about power, we need to keep protesting. We need to keep making our voices known. We need to keep marching through the streets. If there's a protest in your area, go join it. Be another number. Show up and be counted. Because we need these numbers. We need people to come out. We need people to protest. If protesting really doesn't make a difference, why are they arresting protesters? Why is Trump complaining on Twitter about protesters? Why are so many people trying to convince you to stop protesting? Protesting absolutely makes a difference, especially when there's a lot of people that show up. And everything doesn't have to be grim and depressing. You can still make friends. I mean, that's one of the best things about going to a protest, is that you make friends with people who are like-minded, people who think like you do. And I encourage you to take advantage of that. Go to a protest, make some friends, hang out, talk about what you're going to do next, strategize, and just work. I'm recording this on day 6. We have 4 years, and we're going to have to fight every day. I'm an atheist. And a lot of my allegiance up to this point has been to atheism. But I'm dropping a lot of that now because Trump is a graver threat. And I'm willing to work with anybody who's going to stop Trump. So a lot of my activities that were formerly dedicated to, being with, atheist hangouts and communities and all that are now dedicated to Trump. I was with a group recently from a church that said, on Sunday, we're going to go march. On Sunday, we're going to go protest. We're not going to sit in our churches and pray and sing. It was a black church, it was a black pastor. He said, we're going to go hit the streets because we've been spending too much time inside our churches and we haven't been working. Maybe it's that time, guys. Maybe the best thing we can do for our country is say, this is where our dedication lies. This is what we're going to fight for. We're going to fight for the truth in this country. We're going to fight for the people, the individuals in this country. We are going to fight for togetherness in this country, as opposed to hate and prejudice. We are people who understand that political correctness is just another word for caring about somebody else, and we are going to care. And we're going to show that we're going to care, and we're going to fight for this country, our country, to be a country that cares. And maybe like that preacher said on that Saturday afternoon before he was talking about Sunday service being canceled, maybe it's time to stop going to church and start hitting the streets. Maybe it's time to join up with people who are going to fight against Trump, because this is big, guys. We're only in day 6, and there are so many things happening at once that it's hard to keep track of. Every other hour, it seems, there's a major news story that's going to be catastrophic for us for several years to come. And if your friends aren't educated, I know it's frustrating and I know it's hard. And I'm not saying you have to do this labor all the time, because if you do, you'll get burnt out. Rest up and don't talk to people who are, going to ruin your mental health because they're proud of not caring about people you deeply care about, including yourself. But here's the cold hard fact, guys. Regardless of, how much we need to rest up, I wish I didn't have to say this, but it seems increasingly true to me. If we don't confront Trump supporters directly, we are going to lose. I feel like, when you're playing a game of a sports game, and you're telling people these are just the facts, we're going to have to go in hard, and I know it's going to be difficult, and I know it's going to be tough, and I know you don't feel like it, and I don't want to push you as hard as, and it hurts me to say this, I don't want to push you as hard as it will be necessary to push you to keep you from losing this political, push where there are very high stakes. It's kind of like MLK saying, if you guys want your rights, you're going to have to march this street, and you guys are going to get bones broken. You're going to have to sit in this restaurant that says whites only. And you're going to get food slammed into your face. And you might get wrestled to the ground. You're going to get abused, and you're going to get arrested, and it's going to be hard. You may have to talk to people you don't want to talk to, and it's going to be tough. And I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. And I wish you didn't have to go through this. And I'm not saying that you do have to go through this. You'll have to go on strike with but if you want freedom, you're going to have to go on strike with the buses. You're going to have to walk miles to work every single morning. Because that's what it's going to take. And because of that, I don't have to ride in the front of the bus anymore, at the back of the bus anymore. And because of that, I don't have to look for a whites only sign on a door anymore. And because of that, I can protest peacefully in more places. Because of that, we have the Fair Housing Act, and I'm not trapped in the slums for the rest of my life. Because people worked hard and they did what needed to be done. They shouldn't have had to do it. But they knew they wouldn't win unless they did. Guys, this is another one of those times. This is one of those moments in history. And I know we want to crawl away. I sure as hell do. And just hide under a rock until hopefully it's over. And I'm not trying to make you feel guilty for doing that, but I'm just telling you what the facts are on the ground, and you can do with it as you like. If we do that, we are going to lose everything. We may lose our free press. We may lose our voting rights. We may lose the fight on climate change. We may lose our civil liberties. We may lose any reform, any economic forms that we wanted to make. We will lose any welfare reforms that will actually help the working people of this country. We will ruin it and it will be ruined not just for ourselves, but for our children. Those are the facts. So far as I can see it. They shouldn't be the facts. This is not a fair choice to put in front of anybody. And a lot of the Trump supporters are jeering and ugly and laughing their heads off on the other side. These shouldn't be the facts. But they seem to be the facts. If we don't fight, we will lose everything. If we don't confront Trump supporters directly and hard and decisively, we will lose everything. I don't know how to, overemphasize it, but it's not a moral thing. It's just a fact of what we got to do to keep our rights.